This is Indie Authors 30, and the subject tonight is translating your book. I'm the host, Jason Matthews, and I want to welcome a wonderful panel of authors with us tonight. From left to right, we have Emily Hill. Emily, thanks for being here.
Thank you.
And we also have our featured guest, Jessica Lauren. Thanks for joining us, Jessica.
Hi, everybody.
We have Lisa Grace. Thanks for being here,
Hi,
Lisa.
Jason. Thanks for having me.
R.M. Prioleau. And Samantha Fury.
Yay.
Okay, tonight's subject is translating your book, and it's an interesting subject. It's one that a lot of authors may not have thought about, and we're going to discuss this in depth. It's not necessarily a solution for every author or every book, but it is an interesting prospect for a lot of authors and a lot of books. And our guest tonight, Jessica Lauren, has done this already, and so we're going to hear all about her experiences, how she got into doing this. Before we start talking with Jessica about that, I want to share Jessica's Amazon book. This is called Crossing the Language Barrier in Online Selling, a Business Translation Guide. And this book is written in English, Spanish, French, and Chinese. And so Jessica's going to tell us all about how she got into this. Before you were an author, you sold jewelry and other things on eBay. Is that correct, Jessica?
Yes, that's true. I started direct selling jewelry to fellow students and teachers in the 6th grade. And then I brought my business to the online selling world after a few years and started blogging about it.
Okay. Is selling jewelry and things online how you started encountering issues with communication with foreign countries?
Yes, because I started dealing with foreign wholesalers in China and South America, and I found their communications to be confusing and unprofessional.
Okay, okay. And how long did this go on before you had the idea of writing this book?
Probably close to a year or so. Just because that was when I really started dealing internationally for wholesale merchandise. So yeah, about a year.
Okay. And so your book, Crossing the Language Barrier in Online Selling, it's a collection of pretty much everything that a business person would need to translate in terms of communication with customers, communication with distributors, weights, measurements, colors, sizes, all that kind of stuff, correct?
Exactly, yes.
Okay. How did you handle the translations?
Well, I used an online company called Elance. There's another one out there called Odesk. They're the two most popular ones. But they're places where you can go to hire freelance workers, whether it be for design or graphics. But in this case, I used it for translation.
Okay. And let's see. This is Elance, elance.com, where you can either post a job or find contractors. This website is Odesk, and to me they look basically the same. I'm not really sure that I can find any differences. Did you find differences? Why did you choose Elance?
I had started out with Elance. Oh, sorry. I had started out with Elance a few years ago, working on other projects for blogs, and I was just used to this company. But Odesk, they have basically the exact same categories. They're both free accounts, so they are very much the same. It's just more familiar with Elance.
Okay. Going back to the Elance website, So basically, I've typed in translators. Whoops, just disappeared from me. I've typed in translators, and when I click the go button, I'm assuming translators is probably the best term to use for this. What happens is I get a list of lots and lots of different people and lots of different prices.
Right.
I think when you find people from countries, maybe China or Indonesia or certain place like that, you're probably going to find cheaper rates. Like this woman, for example, says $45. I can't believe she's charging $45 an hour, but maybe she is. Um, in Odesk, it looks like a very similar uh, process. If I type in translators and then click search, and by the way, you could use these companies for book cover design or even editing, a lot of other things that are related to the writing industry. It's a very similar setup. You get a list of people and their hourly rate. Um, what's interesting is right now I'm mostly seeing prices that are per hour. I'm not seeing per word charges, but I would imagine that a lot of people do charge by the word. Was that how it worked for you, Jessica?
Yes, actually, I recommend that. I don't. I know it doesn't list that when you're actually looking at the translators, but when you're listing your job description on their website, that's when you can decide whether you're going to be paying hourly or by the word, like a fixed price, because you will know the word count and then you'll be able to put that in the job description. I recommend having your proposal sent to you for a specific word count because the going rate these days is about 4 cents per word. So you'll usually get a quote close to that, but the hourly rate doesn't work as well with translation.
Okay. 4 cents a word. What country did the translator live in who you got at that rate?
The one translator I had lived in China, but my other translator did live in the United States.
Oh, okay, in the United States. Emily, you've worked with a translator, isn't that correct?
I am working with a translator now, yes.
Okay.
And
Are their prices comparable to that?
no, I'm paying actually quite a bit more. I looked at the Elance website and I wanted a little bit more control over my manuscript, and I chose someone actually off of Craigslist after a pretty extensive interview process, and I felt that this woman was someone that I could use for translations, but also would be a good team member for a little publishing company that I have, and so I took her on as kind of a teammate, and so I expect a very long range relationship with her, and I am paying her more.
Okay. Lisa, I know that your film agent is Italian. Have you also looked into any Italian translations of your book?
No,
Mm.
my film agent isn't Italian.
Oh,
I
excuse
use
me.
I
I
use Elaine
thought he
P.
was.
English out of Washington D.C. She's my entertainment lawyer, and the movie producer is Nathan Nazario, who is the producer for MotionPictureProStudios.com. But no, but I did contact a translator, an Italian translator that I met through Writers Cafe at Kindle Boards, and she quoted me 0.03 euros, and with the U.S. dollar exchange rate being 1.2886 today, as of today, U.S. dollars, that would come out to about 4 cents a word. So the
Okay.
price is right in line with what everybody else is charging.
Okay, so that gets back to Jessica's price range, 4 cents a word. Now, to do the math, this probably makes sense with shorter works, people who have books that are on the shorter side. For example, if your novel is 100,000 words, that would cost $4,000 at 4 cents a word to have it translated. It probably only makes sense with either shorter books or a market that you really believe your book could take off in if you want to make the investment. Jessica, I'd like to share your book actually, just a little bit from the sample that we have. This is the sample that anyone can read from Amazon. And one of the neat things about Jessica's book is this is the introduction, and then here's the introduction in Spanish and in French and then in Chinese. And then because this is business related, these are common greetings, common questions that business people would need to know, common item descriptions, colors, things like that. Oops, there's a sample. But the book, the entire book goes all through all this kind of stuff. It's a really neat idea. And Jessica, I know that the book just came out a month ago. But how are things going so far?
It's actually been going well. Most of my sales have actually come from out of the United States, so it seems that it's been more useful to people trying to communicate with people in the U.S.
Okay. I did a little research on the most common languages in the world, and if you do research on this, you'll find there's actually different results on different websites. But everyone knows that that Mandarin Chinese is the most common language in the world. There's about 1 billion people that speak that language, and probably a decent percentage of them read it as well. Depending on who you believe, either English or Spanish is the next most common language. Probably English and then Spanish very closely. And then right after them is actually Hindi or Hindustani, which is obviously in India. India, some people believe India is going to have the world's largest population in 20 or 30 years at the rate that they're going, even passing Chinese. Then Arabic after that, and then actually Portuguese. French comes in around number 10 or so, still a very common language. How did you decide on, obviously Chinese and Spanish, how did you decide on translating into French?
Well, one of the first reasons is our proximity to Canada, and a large population there do speak French. And one of our main countries that we do distribute to would be Canada, so it is easy to communicate with them. So that's why I chose French for that reason. But also, France and Spain are very close to each other in Europe, so the chances of the book doing well in Spain could overflow into France because of the French language. And Spain does do business with France, so it would be a helpful book for them to have the French involved in that as well.
Okay. One of the great things about ebooks, or even publishing paperbacks with CreateSpace, is the ability to make changes at any time. Do you have any plans to add other languages to your book, like Arabic or Hindi or Portuguese or German or anything?
I definitely have plans to do more languages. I would probably have it done in a separate book. So I could target those areas with that book, the advertising for that book, and then this book would still be the same set of advertising that I'm using now.
Okay. I want to mention Google Translate. Google Translate is a free service where you can copy and paste parts of your text and get a machine done translation. And this could be an option for certain things, but probably not books. And I want to explain this because here's one of my blogs, and here's a recent blog post. You could translate this to 53 different languages. So, for example, if we wanted to see what my blog looks like in Finnish, it's translating now. And here is my blog posts in Finnish. Obviously, this is an image, so it's not going to translate that. But these are all the words in Finnish. Now, the obvious question is, well, how well does this work? And I did a little experiment to try and get some information on that. Can you see this piece of text? These are the first three sentences of one of my novels. And what I did was I put these sentences into Google Translate, and I translated that into Spanish. And then I copied and pasted the Spanish, and I put it back into Google Translate to translate it back to English. And then this was the result of it translating the Spanish back into English. Now what you'll notice is the green words changed into the yellow words.
Jason,
And
we're
in this-
seeing the wrong screen.
What are
We're
you
not seeing the
seeing?
green. We're seeing your Google Translate website for your
Okay.
looks like WordPress.
Let's see. And you're still seeing that, huh?
Yes.
Okay, let me cancel out. Thank you for telling me, because I almost completed my point. And let's try this again. Let's try this, and let's see. Let me know if you see it now. Do you
Yes.
see it
There
now?
you go.
Okay.
You got it.
Thank you, Sam. These are the first three sentences of my novel. This is how Google translated it into Spanish, and then when I copied and pasted the Spanish, this is what came out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The changes are the green words into the yellow words. And in this very first sentence, for example, which is probably about 15 words or so, about 5 of the words changed. The next sentence actually did pretty well. There was only one word that changed, and it was a very small change. But the sentence after that really changed quite a bit and is very awkward to read. So long story short, you can probably use Google Translate for some things that are very simple, maybe simple blog posts or something,
Or tweets.
but not for translating. Yeah, but not for translating a novel. And if you do use it for anything that is important to you, you're going to want to get a professional, or not professional, but a native speaker to read it and double check. Tell me what the process was like of hiring translators, Jessica. What did you learn during the process of hiring people?
Well, I learned a lot. When I list the actual job description, I made sure that the name of the description was clear about what I was asking for, because people with the title often to see if that's something they're interested in. So you need a lot of keywords in there. But within the actual description itself, I found it important to say that I needed a native speaker in the language so that they understood all the mannerisms of the actual language it was being translated into. And similar to that, I also needed someone who was fluent in English so they understood all the mannerisms in English first. I also wanted to mention that I wanted someone who was going to be grammatically correct, had good spelling, because obviously that's very important. I also mentioned that it should be edited by a second person after they're done doing the translation. But alternatively, you could hire someone to do the editing as well if you wanted a second source, not someone that the other person necessarily knows, just to pick up on the mistake. Another important thing is that often these translators won't read through your entire description. So what I do is at the bottom of my description, I tell them that when they're responding, that they should use a certain phrase in the subject line, just something random or just a phrase from the actual description itself, so that when they that in the subject line, I know that they've read my entire description, they know what the job entails, and they know exactly what they're getting into. So.
Okay. What about checking references? You know, if they've done this work before, did you ever contact other people that have hired them for translation?
Yes. When I do the description, I also ask that they send me examples of their previous work or work that they've done very recently, so that I can look at what they've done, see if it lives up to my expectations for my own work. Check the grammar, because most of them do have works in English that I can read to check their writing. So.
Okay, okay. How did your dealings with the person in China, for example, differ from your dealings with the person in or who did the Spanish translation?
Actually, not much, because the person I worked with in China was fluent in English. From their proposal that they sent me, I could tell that their English was very good, and all of my correspondences with her were very clear. They were perfect English, basically. So, and then the person that I had to do the translation, same thing. Fluent in English, they were very polite, they were proper, and there was really no difference. They were both very well qualified, and I found working with both of them to be easy, which is something that came out of the process of choosing someone to do the translation, because I had previously checked over the proposals they sent me to make sure that that's what I wanted.
If I were going to translate any of my books, I think I would most be interested in a Chinese translation, for the obvious reasons that they have more people than anyone on Earth. They've got like 1.3 billion people in China, and they also have an economy that's just growing through the roof. So I think that
Exactly.
that they can a lot of the younger people especially can afford to buy books, and I also think that they have a certain affinity for American products. So China might be a place where I would consider investing to translate my books. Samantha, you had a book on Amazon China, but it ended up being pulled. Isn't that correct?
Yes, it was there, on all of the sites, and I just was going back and doing the author pages from a previous show. We talked about that for the Author Central, and I just noticed it was gone, and I thought, well, it was there, and I started doing some research, and I found out that they do pull a lot of the religious fiction from the site, and so that would be definitely would not, be really in my best interest to translate to China until I would be sure that my books was going to stay up there.
Wow.
RM, would you like to have your novel translated, or novels?
It's definitely something I'd like to do, but yeah, it's an expensive endeavor, as I've been told, and as I've seen from all of you guys. It's definitely something that you definitely have to look into very carefully. And as you had put your novel or a little excerpt of your novel in Google Translate, you just have to be careful when you're translating that it's in the right context, because there's a lot of words that, when they're translated, it means something totally different than what it might mean in English. And if you're not an expert at the language, and you hire somebody to translate it for you, you may not know if it's will it be translated right the way I intended it to be, or is it something totally different. So you gotta kind of have to be careful with that too. And so it's a challenge, I think, challenging endeavor.
I agree. And because of the nature of your book, Jessica, it was probably fairly easy for the translation to occur, because it's not, it's not fiction that the author is using a lot of maybe flowery description or creative use of words. It's very straightforward and businesslike, and so I think your book is an example of the perfect kind of book to do this with. I'm trying to think of other books that I think any nonfiction book, especially ones that are shorter in length, are probably ideal for doing this. But you are selling directly from your own website and from Amazon right now. and you're not selling from Barnes and Noble. And can you explain why?
Well, I have been working on getting into their the ebook portion of Barnes and Noble. Uh, so I have been working on that. I just found Amazon to be the right place to start because they are basically international, and they do have Amazon China, Amazon Spain. So those were the more important places I needed to get my book distributed to. And I have been working on the Barnes and Noble account and getting it available there too.
Okay, but I thought that you told me that Barnes and Noble does not support Chinese characters. That the Nook.
Oh, I'm sorry. You're correct. I did run into that problem with them. So what I had been trying to do was figure out a way to get, that was the obstacle I had run into. When I uploaded it to their system, it came out in those funny little squares. So I contacted them and they said they don't support the Chinese characters. So for now, that is going to have to go to the side. I am still trying to figure out a solution, but for now, that's what's going to happen.
Okay, are you still selling jewelry and things?
Yes, I am. My site is still currently active, yes.
Okay. Let me share with our audience who might be interested. This is your eBay store. It's ebay.com/j dash lore Laur dash store, and these are some of your items here.
Yes.
Nice. That looks like really nice stuff. You also
Thank
have a
you.
blog. It's jlorestore .blogspot.com, and what kind of stuff do you typically talk about on your blog?
I try to keep it in correlation with the season, or if there's any upcoming holidays. On Valentine's Day, I try to feature more of the jewelry that has hearts in it or is red. So I definitely try to make it relevant to the season or what's going on around. But I do it weekly, so on certain weeks there aren't many things going on, and I'll try to just focus on a different kind of jewelry, or I stay up on like current trends and I try to include those. The knit hats, there's one right there that you're showing, those were a big trend last winter, so I was really pushing those. They're coming back now because we're coming back in the winter again, but um, I try to stay relevant with what's going on outside.
Okay. Well, I think what you're doing is fascinating. I feel that you're ahead of the curve. That a lot of authors probably aren't even considering getting their work translated. And granted, it's definitely not the right answer right now for every author and every book. But I think certainly some authors and some books it would be willing or a good thing to try doing at least. Um, are what is your plan? Are you writing any other books, or what's your plan next?
I am currently working on a project because of what I'm involved in right now with writing the book, and something that took me all summer. I'm trying to work on a self-publishing resource guide because in writing this book and getting it published and doing the editing and working on Elance, I gained a lot of resources online. There's different websites, some of them geared towards a different kind of writing, some of them geared towards ebook, and I'm trying to compile all of that information and describe a little bit about each one so that people coming into this process can go directly to the kind of source that they're looking for. Just to, depending on what kind of book they're writing, what kind of project they're working on, they can go directly to the resources that they need for their project.
Do you have a working title for that book?
Self-publishing resource guide.
Okay. Do you think that you'll have that book translated?
It's definitely a possibility. I am considering that. Right now I'm really working on getting the information compiled and seeing how long the book is going to end up, and I just want to see what the end product would be in English and then see if it would be worth it to translate it. But it's definitely something I can or based on how my first book is.
Okay. I just want to remind our audience the title of Jessica's book, again, is Crossing the Language Barrier in Online Selling, a Business Translation Guide. You can get it at Amazon or at Jessica's website. And did I have your website on where you can order the book? Can you order the book from this blog?
You can also go to businesstranslationguide.com.
What's that again? Business Translation Guide. Okay. So this is businesstranslationguide.com, and you can order the book directly from here. What formats does it come in? PDF? Any others?
PDF, EPUB, Mobi.
Okay, perfect.
Yes.
PDF, EPUB, and Mobi. Those are the ones that you want. Okay, there we go. Buy the book, PDF, EPUB, Mobi, and excellent. And after purchase, automatically sent to the download page. And I love this. Your buy now buttons are in English, and that's French. There's Spanish, and there's Chinese. So I think that's really cool. Jessica, is there anything else that you want to share with us tonight? We're gonna. Oh no, wait. Samantha, you have a comment.
Yeah, that was a very interesting little app or whatever it was on your blog that turned all of your blog into all those different languages. Is that something that only WordPress offers, or is that something that you can add into Blogger also?
Oh, you can add it to any website. In fact, it's a lot easier to add it to Blogger or to other websites that support JavaScript. On WordPress, on free WordPress sites, like mine is a free WordPress site that doesn't support JavaScript. I actually had to do a kind of a walk around how to get around it, but WordPress is great. They've got a excellent forum and lots of tutorials on how to accomplish things that are easier on other sites, like installing PayPal buttons and things like that. But I think having a blog site or a website, a Google Translate button is a good thing to have, just because it gets translation accomplished in 53 languages. And even though it's unlikely a lot of those languages would ever be read, and it's also possible there's probably a lot of translation that doesn't work that well, I think it's better to have it than nothing, and especially a blog, because I update my blog once or twice every week, and to hire translators would be astronomically expensive. So I think Google Translate is a good thing to use as a writer, but not necessarily for your books.
Now, when you're conversating with somebody, it kind of, some things get lost, because my first model on my first book, he was German, and I had a time trying to have a conversation with him, just simple things over a different image for the book, and I actually had to get a new model because the Google Translate does not work good enough to, like I said, just carry on a daily conversation. If anybody wants to see how it works, just go to somebody that speaks another language, and you can add it to your Facebook page too, and it'll translate each post that they made. So it's better than nothing, but it's not there yet.
Okay.
Okay. Add it to your Author Central page.
Well, I think especially in Jessica's situation, absolutely, because she's got a book that is written in 4 different languages. So on her Author Central page or her Amazon book description, I think it's very important to have the different languages represented. But it might be confusing if you don't have your book written in other languages, to have your author page or description written in other languages. I think that might confuse someone to think, oh, this book is available in Spanish. But when it's actually not, I don't know. Just my guess.
Right.
Yeah, Jessica, how did you choose your actual translator from the Elance proposals?
Well, when I received all my proposals after the bidding period on Elance, I was left with about 50 proposals for each language. And what I did first was I had predetermined a budget that I was willing to spend on the translation, and I decided, so anyone that had sent me a proposal that was outside my budget, I just sent them a thank you, but thank you for your proposal. And from there, I eliminated the proposals that either had bad spelling or grammar, because if they can't handle incorrectly in their proposal to me, I'm not actually going to trust them to write an entire document. So another thing was people who were bidding outside their expertise, I could tell from their previous work that they weren't used to the kind of work that I needed. Most people had either only done fiction, or I needed a nonfiction book. So that was something to look out for as well. Also, I wanted them to put in the subject line a certain phrase, so I knew they had read the entire description. Even some people who did that, because the first and the last sentence, I could still tell from their proposal that they hadn't read the entire description. So I was able to eliminate those people as well. And then one other thing is that some of the people would send me bids that were very low in cost, that almost seemed too low. It's important to be wary of those, because they may not understand what the job is completely. They might not know what they're getting into, or quite understand what you're having them do. So it was important to eliminate those people as well. But once you've eliminated all of them, I was left with about a few translators who all of them were equally qualified to do the job, but from there you kind of have to just go with your gut and choose who you feel would do the right translation job for you. So after that, but it's always important that you keep those couple of people, even if you decline the couple for this job, that you keep them in mind for other jobs, because sometimes the person you choose can no longer work, or they have other things that come up. So it is important to have a backup.
Those are all really, really excellent tips. It sounds like another book could be in order. You could teach about getting translation services done.
There you go.
Is there anything else that you want to share with us tonight, Jessica?
I think actually I've covered most everything. So I think that's basically
what's the best way, if people are interested in asking questions, what's the best way for them to contact you?
You can email me on my Gmail account. It's simply businesstranslationguide@gmail.com. So it's the same as the website, but at gmail.com. And I check that email daily, so any questions that come in, I'll send you a quick response.
Okay. Lisa, was there something you wanted to add? Oh, okay.
I'm sorry. No. I was just congratulations, Jessica. It's really awesome what you're doing. It sounds like you're really filling a market niche out there, and I can see your books being a big hit.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, most definitely. Again, the title of Jessica's book is Crossing the Language Barrier in Online Selling. Again, it's available at Amazon and at Jessica's website. I want to thank you again, Jessica, for being with us. It was really, really nice learning from you and your experiences.
Yes, thank you so much for having me and listening to my presentation.
Definitely, anytime. And thanks also to our authors, Emily Hill, Lisa Grace, R.M. Prioleau, and Samantha Fury. Thanks for being with us.
Thanks again for.
Thanks, Jason. That was fun. Very informative. Thanks, Jessica.
And we'd like to thank our sponsor, hangoutnetworks.com. All of the Indie Author shows can be found at hangoutnetworks.com, as well as many other fine programs. So again, thanks everybody for being here, and hopefully we'll see you again on another show.
Bye. Thanks so much.
Good night.
Good night, everyone.